Welcome back to our final segment of Real Estate Talk. I got to tell you, friend, I am thoroughly enjoying the information this Sunday morning. Michael P., this guy's forgotten more than you'll ever know when it comes to making sure you don't buy a lemon of a house. Reach out to him directly at 214-532-2092. Again, 214-532-2092. You'll be glad you did. Now, we got a few more things we're going to wrap up with here, and then we're going to bring it to the top of the hour. So let's go on.
Okay.
Because we got limited time here.
Okay, so so on our awesome show today, we're talking about how to not buy a lemon with Michael P. With Strata Home Inspections, and a guy that I have known and done hundreds of deals with.
Boy, he's a champion.
Okay, so by the way, Michael, real quick, how many inspections do you think you've done?
I don't know. I've done thousands of inspections. I typically do between 350 and 400 inspections every year. I have 10 to 12 appointments every week, regardless of the season. And the overwhelming majority of my clients are referrals. Every time my phone rings, somebody says, you inspected a house for my dad, you inspected a house for my coworker, you inspected a house for my daughter. And that gives me tremendous satisfaction, because these people, at some point I realized that these people trust me.
Yes.
These people put their trust in me, and I take that extremely serious.
Yeah.
It's not a lie. He is one of the most...
The best advice that I can give
honest.
to my clients is, do your due diligence. Heather and I were discussing earlier about new houses versus old houses. Everybody knows, they don't need me to tell them, that when you buy a new house, it's going to be more expensive, but the chances for defects are going to be fewer. When you buy an older house, it may be less expensive, but you have more chances of finding more defects and more serious types of defects. Nevertheless, as I said earlier, there's no such thing as a bad house, and there's no such thing as a bad deal. Do your due diligence. For example, if you're buying, you should not be afraid to buy a 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s house, but you need to do more due diligence than a brand new house. For example, a 1960s or 1970s house, chances are there are cast iron pipes that are buried, because in those times that's what they used. It is possible that there are sewer pipes of different materials, like clay sewer pipes, or a variety of materials. This can be very expensive to replace.
Yes.
We're talking $10,000, $15,000 to replace all the pipes. Well, it's very easy to find out if in your 1960s house that you're considering, there's $10,000 worth of pipe repairs or replacement under there. Do a hydrostatic test. A plumber for less than $200 is going to pressurize the sewer pipes and tell you if there are leaks. The same plumber can put a camera in there and tell you if the 60-year-old pipes have cracks, have leaks that could cost you thousands of dollars. So the lesson is, do your due diligence. Hire the most thorough, the most detailed home inspector that you can afford to pay, and then follow up on their advice. If they tell you you need to do a hydrostatic test, do the hydrostatic test. The worst thing that can happen is you're out $200, but you know for a fact that you don't have $10,000 worth of damage.
Very well put. Let me ask you another one. While we're on a roll here, I'm just going to ask you.
Do it.
Electricity. And how do you know when things are to code if you're buying that 40s house? I know, but I want my listener to know.
A Texas home inspection is not a code compliance inspection. And it says so. The state tells you that on the first or the second page of the report. Nevertheless, the home inspector is free to and does quote from the electrical code. How do you know what the electrical code says or what the building code says? You download it from the internet and you study it. So this is not a matter of opinion. There is an electrical code, there's a plumbing code, there is a building code that tells you how things ought to be. Now, this can be a labyrinth to navigate for consumers because, for example, a local roofing company may do things differently than the manufacturer of the roofing product says.
Mm-hmm.
And they may tell you, your home inspector doesn't know what he's talking about. My daddy and I have been installing roofs like this for 30 years. Well, sir, that's great, but those shingles and those roofing components were installed by so-and-so roofing manufacturer, and on their website they have instructions in several languages and pictures for those who cannot read that tell you how to install the roofing components if you wish to retain the builder's warranty. So, my consumer should insist that everything is installed according to the installation instructions of the manufacturer of the product, and do your due diligence. It's going to be much cheaper and a lot less heartache if you do your due diligence.
Yes, and now Michael, let's talk about, okay, if that happens, what happens? I mean, does the roof vendor have to come in and rip the roof off?
It depends. Most of the time it is small repairs.
Okay.
But even small repairs, installing a $20 flashing the wrong way can cause a leak.
Yep.
That's why it's so important that the roofs and all other materials installed at a house to be installed according to the installation instructions of the manufacturer of that product and not how the local guy decided he wanted to do it.
Right. I think buying a house is a lot like dating. You have like, it's like there's always going to be something. There's always, I mean, there's no perfect house. There's always those points of contention where you're like, oh my gosh, is this a deal breaker? So for this last example, like if the roofing papers were installed incorrectly, and again, or say we have some bigger issues, and let's say that the repair is that the seller rips the roof off and restarts over. Like the probability of that happening is so unbelievably low unless they can get the actual vendor to rip the roof off and start over, which is also so unbelievably low.
And it's important to put things in perspective. I routinely write in my reports, for example, the drip edge flashing or the roofing paper under the shingles was not installed according to the manufacturer's instructions, but I did not see any damage on the roof because of the incorrect installation.
Right. And so we just constantly weigh out these pros and cons. Like when you're dating, you're like, okay, they have this, they're whatever your requirements are. I'm not going to give away my things, but you have your quote unquote deal breakers, right? But you have your other things where you're just going to live with them, right? You might not like them. And maybe that's an example of that, right? But so we just try to look at like, what are those things that are going to make my home a lemon or not? And that's the hard part of navigating through this. So anyway, just about a conversation.
Well, I got to tell you, if inspections or houses were like dating, then I would be the perfect house. There you go. We're getting ready to come to the top of the hour here, and I got to tell you something, guys. What a fantastic show this Sunday. I feel like we left this show today that we're more informed. I get it about do your due diligence. You pay attention to details.
And that's how we really, that's the topic. How do we not buy a lemon? That's pretty much how we not buy a lemon. We do the due diligence, the hard work, the dirty work.
Yeah, I tell you, Heather, you have a very large heart about doing the right thing in real estate. And for my listener today, I highly encourage you, if you're buying or selling a piece of property, Real Estate Concierge is a really good company. They really specialize to the first-time home buyer, amongst other things. Give me the website again, dear.
It's owntx.us.
Owntx.us.
Yeah.
Or you can reach out to Heather directly at 855-732-6700. Again, 855-732-6700. Tell them you heard it here on Real Estate Talk. Michael, will you come back as a repeat offender here to this radio program with your old buddy, Willie?
We'll be glad to.
Yeah, what a great guy for the industry. We need more guys like you. Strata Home Inspections, you can reach out to them directly. If you like this program, 214-532-2092, 214-532-2092. Thank you, Michael. I'm going to hold you to that.
Thank you very much.
And I'm going to close this show out. I'm going to say just one thing. First of all, happy Sunday to you, and we're glad you came here. But remember this, friend, if you're the smartest person in the room, you may be in the wrong room. You think about that one. I'm your host, Willie Lambright, signing off for another edition of Real Estate Talk.